welcome to Vertical Intelligence. This is the second episode, and this one's going to be much more personal in nature. I think it's probably really important to balance talking about things in an academic, kind of diagnostic way with a more personal and authentic voice. Because in truth, this journey of vertical development is not just a academic cognitive one. Like it's hard one in often the most difficult moments of our experience. And in a way, this is a chance for me to show you how maybe my own journey of vertical development has unfolded. And because what fun is any of this if we can't just be who we authentically are? So I have always loved writing. I was praised for it in school and at university. I started keeping a journal when I was 11 years old, and I kept filling them up for the next 30 years. I also love other people's writing, anything from dense academic dissertations to sci-fi novels, and poetry absolutely makes me swoon. Last year, I started a different podcast with my husband, and I discovered just how difficult it is for me to speak extemporaneously. But I am not somebody who shies away from things that are uncomfortable. And of course, I decided to record my last article as a podcast, and I'm doing this one as well. And so this podcasting project is a bit like a deep tissue massage for my psyche. It's painful, but I think the suffering, in a way, does something good on the inside. So I recorded the audio for my last episode at least 6 times, maybe like 8. I don't totally love the way that it turned out, but I also got it to a point where I didn't hate it. Like this one is obviously scripted. Like I'm not even going to try to pretend like I am not reading something aloud word for word. And I think that is the part that I hate the most, because I have this fantasy that someday I will be able to eloquently flow with all of the knowledge and all of the experience that lives in my sinew. And so reading my own words as if following a script creates a kind of internal dissonance for me. It's like the tone or the cadence of my words fails to truly convey the passion that I have for this body of knowledge. But I think more than anything, this struggle that I have with my voice, it shines a painfully bright light on this persistent layer of my own insecurity that I've really only recently recognized. And so maybe the scripted nature of my speech is like a final outpost of a lifelong defense mechanism. So the psyche is absolutely a bizarre place, and I have been obsessed with it for nearly as long as I have memories. I remember thinking as early as 7 or 8 years old, like something is wrong. Like life is not supposed to be this painful. And I know now that that is not really a normal thought for a child to have. I began reading books on psychology somewhere around the age of 10. And of course, I didn't understand anything that I was reading then, but my desire to understand, like, why does my inner experience feel the way it did was an absolute compulsion. From the outside, I appeared completely normal. And I think that is a brilliant survival strategy. It is a curated script of its own, and it worked until it didn't. So I think if there were Olympic medals for faking happiness and confidence, I would be standing somewhere on that podium. And I've been consciously unraveling these psychic knots for about 10 years now, which means that it took me nearly 3 decades of formal education, voracious informal study, oodles of therapy, and a near daily habit of examining my own mind to be able to recognize the charades that I was performing. So about 6 months ago, this new layer revealed itself. I think it was so subtle and so quiet and utterly pervasive that I had just completely missed it all of this time. I imagine this is what they mean when they say it's the water that you're swimming in. So my particular water is, I think, a source of the dissonance that I feel when I try to speak aloud whatever is on my mind. And maybe we could call it a somatic tyrant. So about 100 times a day, an entire body possession just blows through my nervous system that if it could talk, it would say something like, you are worthless, guilty, and you should just do the world a favor and go die quietly where no one will be inconvenienced by finding you. So it happens when I drop my morning toast on the floor, or when I catch my reflection in the bathroom mirror on the way to my closet, or just when I'm sitting outside listening to the birds. It is almost never an actual voice in my head. This tyrant is almost entirely somatic, and my psychologist, trauma-informed brain knows what that means. It means it developed before I had the capacity for language. It likely began in the womb. There are a gajillion books and articles and research studies that show how trauma lives in our body and how it even gets passed genetically from one generation to another. But I kind of hate the word trauma because, like the word ego, it is impossibly misunderstood. And I'm not going to sort all of that out now. That is probably going to be another article for another time. But I think instead I just want to name how brave we all are for waking up in this world and continuing to put one foot in front of the other. I know that everyone does not have my exact experience, but I know that everyone has something about their inner experience that is persistently painful. So in managing this, I do find it genuinely helpful to have this kind of like library of models and frameworks and therapeutic interventions that live in my head and in my heart. I mean, that is, after all, why I'm going to talk so much about vertical development. They act a little bit like night vision goggles for me, but during the daytime. It's like they help me navigate the darker corners of my psyche while the sun is still out. Not everyone enjoys this kind of thing. So kind of like X-Men's Cyclops, I keep all of those therapeutic interventions and models and frameworks behind a compassionate and protective screen because it's very cruel to point at somebody's pain that they're not ready to acknowledge yet. And the other unintended consequence is it's hard for me to just be with people without all of the psychological analysis running in the background. I know they can feel it, and I can't imagine that is really very much fun. All of that is just to say that we will all be invited to put down the very thing that we are so good at. And God help you if you made it a career like I did. Because there is only so much that sense making and understanding and doing can accomplish. So we tend to think that sense making and understanding and doing are the things that's going to take us all the way to our goal, whatever that means. But I am learning that gets us maybe halfway there. So my night vision goggles are great at showing me the tyrant that stands in my inner room, but it is not enough to make it leave. And so eventually life will invite us into this place of complete and utter surrender, whether that's through a sickness or the death of somebody that you love or exhaustion or just a gradual recognition. We will all be called to put down our active efforting. And that includes the ways in which we try to change the things that we don't like. Already this morning, I have railed against 1,000 things, big and small, that I don't like, and I have aligned myself with the things that I do like. There is just this constant grasping and aversion, so it is no wonder that we are all so tired. And I could brilliantly explain the why behind my somatic tyrant of grasping and aversion. I know exactly where mine came from. I know why it formed, and I could prescribe a half a dozen different ways to, quote unquote, heal it. And that is not to say that these things are not useful and necessary, but they are only partially so. The other part of the story is there is nothing really wrong. Or maybe another way that I can say it is eventually we recognize that the idea of right and wrong doesn't fully capture the fullness of experience. So my unique constellation of nervous system reactivity is a permanent fixture. There is no fixing it. I will forever live with this full body ebb and flow of shame and guilt and worthlessness. It is much a part of me as my tenderness, as my joy at a sunrise that sometimes leaves me in tears, at my love for music and color and nature and humans and everything that is seen and unseen. And in truth, I suspect that these two wildly different poles within me, this tyrant and this poet, that they need one another as much as I need air to breathe. And so I try, as much as I am able, to just let this tyrant sit with me while I watch the sunrise, something that the tyrant will rail against in brilliant fashion. And I just feel the familiar wave of guilt that maybe I'm not being productive or some bollocks like that. And I let the guilt be. I do not welcome the guilt for the sake of tricking it into submission, nor do I search for a way to fix it. It just is, and I am finally learning how to be okay with that. So, may you find patience for your imperfections. May you know that there's never really ever been anything wrong, despite the utter agony of life sometimes. May we understand the need for doing and the need for surrender. And may we continue to forget everything that is true, only to experience the joy of remembering it again. Thank you, and until next time, I'm Alice Ann Schmidt.